and we are starting. We are beginning. We have it all. I wonder if I could actually screen share in this. Can I? Can I screen share? I don't. Bit sad. Well, in all of the moments, we will do it. I don't think I can screen share this event. So instead, I'll just pop up the live stream again. Put that in the archive. If you guys want to actually read along with me, here it is. Reading with the Forge. Unite in the name of shitposting. What do you think I do? Oh, somebody messaged me. Let's... Well, Zero's doing fine. He just told me how he's doing fine. That's pretty fine, bro. Let's go. Actually, first off, does anyone want to read with me? Let me hop back in on the... Let me open a new window real quick for Opera so I can actually see the chat while I'm reading. Discord.com. Let's go. I'd be down? Alright. Let's hop you up. How to hop you. Hold on. I have to actually do it from the event channel. Request to speak, bro. Who cares? Bro. Hold on.
Am I alright?
Yeah, I can hear you. Why would I not be using...
My mic quality terrible?
No. You wanna know what is terrible? Your enthusiasm. You gotta shout it out loud.
Yay!
Alright, you're shit. Alright. That's a sad moment. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah, I'm tired, and I have to go to my dad's in 2 hours. I mean, 8 hours. Fuck.
Can't even count. Alright. The event should officially start in 4 minutes, but we're gonna start reading anyways. You have the Celestial Forge pulled up, right?
Yeah?
Okay. Chapter 1. One Introduction. It was hard enough being a college dropout in a city with a half-dead economy. In Brockton, most people were either ignoring the reality of the situation or had given up hope completely. Realistically, the only growth industry was cape work, and if you weren't a cape, that meant tourism, the PRT, or hinchmaning for the truly desperate. Most of the city would have given up their right arm for superpowers. Too bad they don't understand what you have to go through in order to trigger, or how the powers you get don't exactly match up with what you've dreamed about. If I thought the current level of what my power was capable of was all I would ever get, I would probably be pretty frustrated. Back when I was in college, everyone dreamed about being a tinker. When you were in an engineering program in the same city as Armsmaster, it really was inevitable. When I finally got powers, they didn't exactly match what you'd expect from a tinker. Then again, from what I'd learned, most tinkers didn't exactly function on the level of what you'd expect from a tinker. Only made one thing so far. It was a doozy, but still not exactly the stuff heroes are made of. I might have been able to leverage it into some obscure application, especially the secondary effects, but it would have been a challenge. Still, it's not as bad as it could have been, or would have been. If I'd had my mighty Pseudo Tinker powers for all of a week, and had not accomplished much in that time, I'd had my... okay. Mostly I'd been focusing on sorting out the mess of my life that had resulted in my trigger event. I wouldn't exactly say bridges were burned, but there were some close relations that it would be awkward to deal with for a while. Triggers don't really fix anything. They might if it's one of the things that turn you super strong to avoid being deal with being crushed by a car, but for anything that's a longer build-up, there's no amount of power that is actually going to fix the problems either you or your life that led to that situation. Accepting that, at least, let me start to move on. I was riding the bus home after a grueling week of work. They say there are no jobs in Brockton Bay. That's not exactly true. There are plenty of jobs, as long as you're relatively young, clean, and willing to put up with abuse from the general public. And don't need to support anyone else or have any serious obligations beyond basic survival. Which is how I was able to land a job as a part-time retail worker in the rich side of the city, in a store where everyone other than the manager was part-time, since that let you avoid all of those pesky benefits that would have to be paid. It was how I was avoiding...
Wow, this is communist.
What?
Sorry, just a comment, so you should keep reading, fuck.
I heard communism, but I'm a capitalist. And I think Joe is a capitalist too.
No, I think Water's pretty...
Mate, just because he works retail and hates his job doesn't mean he's communist.
I mean, if you worked retail, you'd probably hate it too and become a communist.
I wouldn't become a communist, I just hate the job. How do you start from, I hate this job, to, oh yeah, now I'm a communist?
Well, maybe if I was a communist, maybe if they were a communist, they'd be able to advocate for
If they were a communist, they wouldn't have even done the job, let alone tried grabbing it. They would have straight up...
No.
They would have subsisted off of welfare. Communists...
No, they would have went on strike or formed a union with their fellow workers.
Okay, communists
instead.
do not form unions. What are you talking about?
Soviet Union, checkmate.
That's Stalin. That's Stalinist, not communist.
True, but unions are still formed by communists.
Okay, I cannot recall a single factory that has had a union that was communist started.
I mean,
most of them are capitalists who are just fed up with their shitty work conditions. Anyway.
True.
Okay.
I mean, I'm more of a syndicalist.
I still think you make shit up. Okay. I was riding the bus home after whatever. It was how I was able to afford a truly terrible apartment in not quite the worst area of the docks. I was currently living in the part of the city they... hold on. Let's do that a little bit. There we go. What the fuck was that? I'm gonna mute this tab. Okay, there we go. I was currently living in the part of the city they had warned us against when I first moved out of the dorms. It at least got me away from Captain's Hill, and thanks to my power, that was just bearable. Hey, Lime, how you doing? How do I,
How do you what?
There we go. Okay, I was trying to leverage the stream chat to the right, and the Discord chat to the bottom, and there we go. Got the story. Do this.
Good job, my guy.
Good job, I am great. The apartment was about a 5-minute walk from the nearest bus stop. This neighborhood was a somewhat harrowing experience. The apartment was part of an oversized house that had been divided into 5 units, which placed mine in as a long, thin studio apartment. Truly terrible apartment, long, thin studio apartment. These words do not go together or compare. My theory was that it had been assembled out of leftover space. The fact that it had been accessed from what must have been a converted fire escape only did more to convince me. It was clearly a case of, we have this extra space, why can't we get someone to pay for it? I know there were much worse places. I'd looked at what they offered in my price range downtown, and this was totally worth the half-hour bus commute. Plus, thanks to my power, I had one advantage. Once I got home, I dumped my jacket and head for the closet. This would probably wear thin eventually, but for now, after just a week of having my power, it was still a blast. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a key. It's the first thing I built, if I could count as the person who built it. There were two kinds of things I could make with my powers. Things made out of normal material, and things like this. I couldn't recreate the key if my life depended on it, because it will always exist. I've essentially made it a universal constant that I will always have this key. Destroyed, lost, or just separated, and it'll turn up in a few minutes. That effect and what it could accomplish was more than enough. That was enough that if I didn't know the full scope of my powers, I probably would have assumed the key and what it could do was everything. And it would be off to the PRT to let them try to figure out how to brand me as a door-based superhero. I slid the key into the closet and turned it. Rather than open into a small and musty collection of shirts and winter coats, the door revealed a blank white cube of a room, exactly 5 meters on each side. Safe and mobile access to an extra-dimensional space wasn't a terrible superpower and could probably have any number of applications. I mean, if I wanted to go villain, it would probably have let me clean out entire stores without anything weighing me down. I was putting it to a much more mundane application. Right now, the cube contained a duffel bag, mattress, work desk, small bookcase, 2 storage trunks, and an old office chair. There was also a battery lantern on the desk, since the lighting level in this area has left something to be desired. At least it was dark enough that it was possible to sleep here, and that the place had less temperature and odor issues than my own apartment. I wasn't here just to get away from my living conditions. Aside from the entryway, there was a single door on the left side of the cube. Before I headed that way, I set up the crude door or bar I'd built earlier. One downside was I couldn't close the door while I was inside. That was probably a safety measure. I didn't know what would happen if the door I used was opened when I tried to get out, or worse, destroyed. What? I didn't know what would happen if the door I used was opened when I tried to get out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a bit of a fucky wucky.
I wonder what would happen. Maybe I'd exit the room. Or worse, destroyed. I had no intention of getting stuck in here forever. Alright, I'm gonna need to actually drink some water. My voice is starting to get... If you want to continue where I left off, Dex, that'd be... Well,
Where did you leave off?
search off, what would happen if the door I used was opened when I tried to get out.
Since I didn't know what would happen if the door I used was closed when I tried to get out, or worse, destroyed, I had no intention of getting stuck in here forever. But I wasn't going to let anyone wandering behind me between my locked, bolted, and chained apartment door and the chunk of steel wedging this door shut as far as I could get it. I was reasonably secure. It wouldn't stop most of the capes in the city, but I was thankfully off their radar by virtue of not doing anything superhero related. I walked through the inner door into my workshop. It wasn't exactly what you would expect when you heard the words tinker and workshop. The place wasn't bedecked with the blistering technology of a science hero. It wasn't even a top-quality manufacturing facility. Jesus, Joe was already on the quality trail, but this was more of what you would get from a high school metal shop. There were tools and machinery, but it was pretty basic stuff. Not even a proper numeric control lathe. I was lucky I had a manufacturing component in my college courses, otherwise I'd be completely lost here. My high school had phased out shop class long ago, so it was only thanks to a single college class offered more as a formality that I knew what I was doing. Fortunately, the place was stocked with materials and safety equipment. Unless I wanted to work with exotic alloys or bring in high-tech equipment, the whole place was designed so I wouldn't have to go out for anything. That was a very good thing. I don't know if it was true, but there were rumors about people who triggered as tinkers and started buying random stuff, like loads of silly putty, old microwaves, or cleaning chemicals, and would get exposed by various agencies or gangs on the lookout for behavior like that. I had my doubts, but since that seemed like it would generate loads of false positives, but who knew how good the thinkers working for people like that were? I mean, pretty good. I didn't want to end up exposed, especially not with my powers at their current level. So the fact that I had a private, personal, and a well-stocked workshop was a blessing. It was too bad I couldn't build anything worth a damn. What I produced in my after work hours over the last week was nothing more than curiosities. Honestly, it'd been more about trying to get used to working with this kind of equipment again. The closest thing I'd made to a useful tool was that door jam, and that was just a matter of measuring correctly and working the right tools. I had rough tinker facilities, but I did not have any tinker knowledge. That is, I didn't have any yet.
Start reading again if
I,
you want.
you can start reading for me again. You start off from that is I didn't have any yet.
Alright, found that. Okay. I closed my eyes and felt out the potential extent of my power. Over 300 flares of lightning burned in my mind, all but one completely beyond my reach. The only mode I could touch was this single piece representing my workshop. The embers were arranged into 12 general constellations, each along a different theme. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith so powerful. God damn it. Okay. I could barely. The embers were arranged in 12 general each along with a different theme. But I could barely glean what it was at that moment. These were what I was working towards. These were the reason I hadn't given up and sulked off to the Protectorate. These were Tinker powers. Every one of them represented some level of crafting ability, power, knowledge, or resource. I could just I could just barely feel them now, but I knew how strong they were. Even the weakest among them was significant, and the highest tiers were world shaking. These were hero powers. More than that, these were hero powers. Powers on the level of the first legendary and unlimited tinker. Powers that would let a person be the kind of technology superhero that used to appear in comic books, not the stripped down nonsense I was currently running around. There, but for the grace of God and all that. What? What was this line? Why is it there? There, but for the grace of God and all that. I don't, I don't understand that.
Do you want me to start off again? I think I might be a bit louder now. Sorry for being so quiet.
Yeah, okay. You can start reading again. I'm gonna.
My reach, uh, uh, my reach had been slowly building in the weeks since I got my powers. It was gradual at first, but had accelerated recently. Soon I would have a chance to link to another one of the points of light. The constellation shifted and changed, so I had no idea what I would be able to reach, or even if what I had built up would be strong enough for whatever spark swung close at the time. This was the first time this had happened, but being able to feel it coming was incredible. I was lucky to have the level of understanding of my power that I'd been blessed with. Like pretty much everyone in school, I'd taken electives on parahuman studies. There were rumors that the Cape population of the city took those courses in their secret identities, and the younger members of New Wave showed up occasionally. They were the cool courses that everyone was interested in.
get a chance to learn about the history of capes, cape impact on society, and theories on how powers worked. With the insight I gained since triggering, I could say most of what they were teaching was pure and utter crap. That may have been intentional, since people trying to self invoke a trigger event was a nightmare in terms of self inflicted harm. Some of the other stuff was so far off the mark that had to wonder if there was an intentional attempt to conceal it. Ooh, cauldron! Passenger theory had been barely touched on, and that was mostly to dismiss it. I kind of understood that. It seemed ridiculous, and it was a lot more likely that anyone who thought their powers came from an outside intelligence was crazy rather than uniquely insightful. Well, Joe, you might be crazy, but you're not. I was definitely in the latter category. I could feel my passenger's excitement as my reach grew forward a final grasp. A mote swung close from one of the mid-sized constellations. My power tried to grasp it, but the energy was too much. The flare of energy spun away and out of reach. There was mild disappointment from my passenger, but not despair. My reach was growing. Another mote would come, and I would be able to handle a stronger power by the time it arrived. The emotional reassurance of my passenger was probably the most comforting thing in my life. My connection with him didn't go any further than what he was feeling, but that was still incredibly enlightening. I trusted that he had my best interests at heart, or at least my survival. The reason I trusted that was because of how badly he wanted this set of powers complete. Wow, remember when this was a thing? Like sentient fucking passenger. He doesn't even talk anymore. That's so disappointing, but let's move on. I didn't have
Sold that
much
idiot.
yeah, I kind of wish it was back because that was sort of the most interesting thing and got a lot of conflict. But let's move on. I didn't have much information from my passenger, but I did understand my power. Generally, people have a roughly instinctive understanding of how their powers work. Mine were a little more in depth than that. I understood the nature of how powers were gained and what they meant. I knew the name of the power I had, Metalwork Workshop, which was from the toolkit's constellation of my powers. And I knew the name of the entire array of powers, and how badly my passenger wanted it to be complete. My power, or the array of my potential powers, was the Celestial Forge. And from what I could tell,
Gravitas.
it was
The Celestial Forge.
the Celestial Forge. From what I could tell, it was the ultimate Tinker power.
Ow, my
And my
ear.
passengers. Oh, sorry. Did I talk too loud? Sorry.
Yeah, it was like a massive
And my-
spike. It went from 2 decibels to 14.
sorry. Wait, am I still too quiet or?
No, no, I was just making comparison.
Yeah. And my passengers combined Holy Grail and Mount Everest. His emotions when considering the breadth. Wait, breadth?
The breath of the
Lord,
powers.
the breadth of the powers. Yeah, I
Not,
think he meant breadth.
not
You know,
breath.
bread.
No, he clearly meant the breath. The powers breathe. They're human now.
Yeah, yeah.
They emit
Of
carbon
the powers.
dioxide.
You don't know. It could be dye juice.
What?
Sorry. The passenger breathes dye juice. Don't question it now. Anyway,
Choose.
the breadth of the powers were complicated, but mostly centered on a longing to see them in action. He wanted this to be completed, and was heavily invested in me being the one to finish it. All his guidance and support was for the purpose of turning me into the greatest tinker that ever existed. I just hoped I could live up to those
This
expectations.
sounds like an advertisement now. Like one of those emails you get. You check your email. We are hoping that you become the best ever. Pokemon.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, my arms just hurts a bit because I just had my vaccine.
All right. I'm gonna read a little bit more. I,
Okay.
I wasn't likely to see any new powers tonight. I'd completed a circuit of the various pieces of borderline scrap metal that represented my crafting projects from the previous week. A persistent, infinitely restocking workshop really was incredible. But without the skills to make better use of it, all I had was a hobby room. Have you ever looked at an animal and thought, this creature's too dumb to be left... Yes. Yes, I have. The sloth, I do agree. Those things should have gone extinct. There's no way they should still be alive, and the only reason they are is because they cling to trees like children cling to their mothers. And Walmart. Anyways. I checked my watch. It was getting on past 6. I'd kind of blocked out this evening for dealing with any new ability I got from my power, but that was a wash. That left me some time to prepare for other aspects of being a superhero. There's a common impression that Tinkers make something of a soft target in cape fights. Okay, I'm gonna talk about that. No. That's a fanon belief. Canon-wise, Tinkers are like one of the most dangerous ones you can fight. Even a barely experienced Tinker is still less squishy than everyone except a Brute. That's just the end line. Brutes are the least squishiest. Tinkers are the second least squishiest. And that revolves around their equipment. You can't just punch a Tinker. They probably have four like layers of subdermal mesh plating. You're just gonna sink your fist in and they're gonna bowl over and then they're just gonna shoot you with a ray gun. You could punch a Tinker, it's just not a good idea. Yeah. Not even just wet tinkering. Subdermal mesh is something most Tinkers can do regardless. Arms Master can do that. It isn't wet tinkering, it's just tinkering. Batman with prep time. It's putting plates inside of you, sure. Well, classify that as wet tinkering. You're not a bio-tinker regardless. You can do bio-tinkering, you're not the bio-tinker. That's be like saying... Not surprisingly broad, Arms Master's miniaturization and such. And modularity is so obviously broad. Efficiency is so obviously broad. A lot of Tinkers can do a lot of things, and that's discounting subdermal mesh isn't even the best. Arms Master, for example, makes power armor for himself. Imagine punching a guy in power armor and then saying that guy's squishy.
I mean, just release an EMP. At this point, it should be like standard procedure.
EMPs are inefficient and clunky, especially in design. When people think of the nukes EMPing America, they're really thinking of how shittily designed America's electricity system is. That's the only reason it works. We can, at this point, if we like spent 4 years redesigning the entire process, EMPs of a nuke would barely affect us. And that's a very strong EMP at today's standards. That knocked out multiple cities pretty much. All of Hawaii.
I mean, just have a Tinker make an EMP. That's what Bakuda did.
Bakuda is stupid. She basically just built a nuclear bomb with EMP. Except she didn't throw it into the atmosphere to release the EMP. She just blew it up. Bakuda. I don't care about Buddha.
Yeah. EMP is more of a wave than a particle effect like
it's an
radiation.
electromagnetic pulse.
The reason
yes,
why radiation can spread.
The reason
why radiation can spread through the atmosphere is because it irradiates the air and it spreads through the wind.
Nukes do release EMPs when they are exploded above orbit.
Yes, they do.
Which is what happened before, and that knocked out pretty much all of Hawaii from several miles away. That's discounting. That's discounting Hawaii as an island, so of course it'd be able to knock it out easier than everything else, but still.
Poor Hawaii.
Poor Hawaii. Bunch of shit. Good luck. Have fun with your hurricanes. You love how?
Yes, we really do need to fix that infrastructure. Maybe if there was some sort of bill that could actually do that.
It's something that we're still developing. We haven't been able to do it at all. Nobody's actually doing it. How's your day?
I know,
Mine's
I
good.
know.
You had cube steak and macaroni and cheese? Damn, bro. I wish I could have that for dinner today. Now, all I had was a
Who are you
hash.
talking to?
The stream. There's Arthur Williams in the stream chat. Uh,
Ah,
I had for me for breakfast I had a McDonald's hash brown. Haven't had one of those in a long while, as well as a sausage McBiscuit, I think. Look, all I know is that McDonald's is pretty delicious, even if it's not healthy whatsoever.
yeah, but like, if you have you seen those videos by this guy who like makes it but better? It's a lot more delicious, though it takes a lot more time and effort.
All right, should I put the Discord chat in the stream? Here, hold on.
Yeah, you said that you were using it in Opera. Don't you have to like program downloaded?
I do have the program download,
Nicolie,
but I'm not gonna show my actual.
actual Discord?
Yeah, I have stuff on that that I'm not showing. I actually do things
Oh,
on that, even whilst.
pornography?
No.
Uh,
Anyways. Hold on. There we go. Got that. Got that. Alright, so. We are at the. That might be true for anyone who doesn't show up with power armor or personal force field. But the fact is, most capes out there have no physical boosts at all. Brutes aren't common enough, but outside of that category, everyone is as vulnerable as a normal human. And some brutes don't even get an increase in durability, if you think about it. Some just punch harder, or just better physically. The problem for Tinkers is they have time commitments that keep them from being able to train to the level expected from capes. See, if you don't have some power that makes training unnecessary, the amount of physical conditioning necessary to just survive a cape encounter is insane. I mean, sure, if you're going off of the high tiers in Brockton Bay, I'm pretty sure a normal dude can kill Crusader.
um, Arms Master is like, yeah. Athleticism doesn't beat gun.
Arms Master is pretty fucking
Arms
strong.
Master,
You know,
yeah. But like for everyone else, that athleticism doesn't really expand to being immune to guns.
if
Just shoot them.
most Tinkers are immune to guns, though, simply because power armor beats gun any day of the week. Arms Master's just built different.
That is, if the yeah, but Arms Master fucking compulsively spends time tinkering and working out.
Arms Master literally spends time making up threats that don't exist and developing countermeasures to them.
Yeah, he's like definition of a workaholic.
No wonder he got so pissed when his reputation took a hit. How long has he spent cultivating that damn thing? 20 years? 10? Personal, it's because it's who they want to be. Yeah, they want to be someone so dedicated to the art of heroing that they'll throw away everything else just to save people. They just can't.
Oh yeah, remember when Taylor found Arms Master hot, or at least his face?
What?
Like when he meets when she meets him, he says he has a nice smile and that he would make a lot of women happy.
I mean, it's all the beard, as Skeptile said.
Yep.
It's all the beard. That dude probably has a perfect way to groom it, too. He probably developed a contraption simply to groom...
Beard.
Hell, beard. Alright, let's go. Fortunately, I'd already been running regularly before getting my powers. Won't help! That was great for endurance. No, it isn't. But there was the whole issue of muscle growth and combat skills to think of. I was lucky enough that my neighborhood had a solution to both of those problems. I left my workshop and closed the door to The extra-dimensional space. The transition from pristine room to dingy apartment was stark, but at least my apartment got slightly more livable now that I needed to locate space for sleeping and storage. Add to the still talking about beating up random criminal? No, Dex. He's talking about cape encounters. I headed to the small kitchenette area and grabbed a high-protein snack before gathering my workout gear and leaving the apartment. I don't think capes classify as random criminals. They're called supervillains, aren't they? Random criminals are called criminals. Capes are called villains. Random super criminals. Alright. We'll call them that. Another load off my mind thanks to my powers. Having powers doesn't make you a super? Do they have the presentation? No, they don't. I mean, Lung does. He specifically does presentation every time when he fights. Then again, it's kinda easy to do that when you're a giant dragon. Another load off my mind thanks to my powers. Not storing anything of value in the apartment made me a lot less concerned about leaving it. I effectively had access to all my worldly possessions anywhere. As long as I could access any kind of door, I'd never have to worry about them being compromised. There were tinkers who would kill for that kind of security, and my powers provided it as a near afterthought.
I mean, you are the jumper. Do you want me to continue, or...?
Nah, I'm still gonna read. My destination was only a couple of blocks away and was in a fairly active part of the neighborhood. If you got any low-tier cape power, what would you want it to be? Victor. I want Victor's power.
You'd steal powers from other people?
That's not
I guess in
That's
terms
not
of
Victor's
loads,
power.
yeah.
What are you talking about? Victor doesn't steal power, he steals skills.
I mean, skills. Shit, yeah, I know. I know he doesn't steal powers, fuck. I was just...
If
the
Victor
kind of
stole
power I'd
powers,
have.
that would be way better than low tier.
Does Region count as low tier?
Overhaul from MHA, low tier. That dude can kill
yeah.
Endbringers. No fucking way, he's low tier.
I don't know. I'd probably have Kidwin's power.
Kidwin, I wouldn't classify that as low tier. That's a mid tier. That's a good mid to high tier tinker power, in my opinion.
Well, fuck you. Maybe I'll go Elite.
Okay, Leet is definitely high tier. I mean,
I know, he just wasted it.
he didn't just waste it, actually. He canonically did great with it. The problem was, he didn't know what his specialty was, so he kind of fucked up. He was very careful about using it, once he realized what it was.
Yeah, I think his power kind of screwed it up on him.
It definitely
if he
did.
Didn't
Leet would be a fucking menace if he actually knew what it was in the first place. If you told Leet what it was and the first time he had it, he would have developed something literally an Endbringer killer level. There's no doubt. Leet is not a dumbass. And he's incredibly creative. It's just that he's getting fucked over by every single machine he creates because his power sucks ass.
His power literally hates him.
Yeah, his power should get good. The only reason he's doing what he does is because of his power. He's only careful because his power isn't. It's like being handed a live grenade, and the live grenade wanting you to keep it unpinned. No, you're tossing that shit away. What are you doing?
So Regent's mid-tier.
I would say Alabaster would be mid-tier because simply immortality. Nigh immortality.
Why not Grey Boy? I mean, beyond, like, putting
Grey
people
Boy
in
is
time
high
loops.
tier. Grey Boy is literally at Ash Beast level. It's like comparing...
I mean...
Who's a...
What if I just want Grey Boy's immortality? Just turn grey.
Grey Boy's immortality is a bit odd. I think it's time stasis in a nutshell. Live grenade be like, homie, my dog, don't throw me, trust me, this will work out.
What about Shadowstalker's power? I mean,
Shadowstalker's not low tier, but it's not great either. It's how she uses it. It's good. It's really good for combat, but aside from that, its applications are kind of meaningless.
eh, she should have gotten a second trigger.
If she had a second trigger, she would have killed Inbringers. Let's be real. Her power functions similarly enough to Sting that a second trigger would be able to allow it to do such things.
What about fuck.
I think Velocity would count as low tier, if only because of the downside.
What about Aegis?
Aegis? That's... Okay, Aegis should have survived Leviathan. His brute power is ridiculously good. He gets the Alexandra...
no, he drowned! Don't you know, he drowned.
That's bullshit! He can't drown! That's impossible! Redundant biology isn't redundant anymore.
He should have just grown gills.
Aegis is a good high tier brute package. I mean, sure, he's not as strong as other Alexandria.
He also has flight. Hey, he has flight.
He has flight. He's still stronger than the average person, and he's basically unkillable. Unlike where other brute packages, they actually can't survive if their head was lopped off, Aegis can. Aegis is like the Siberian anti-Siberian. He gets shredded up, he's still alive. Redundant biology is ridiculous.
I guess I'd go Cask. You know that alchemy tinker makes potions?
Ooh, that's an interesting thing. I don't know why they'd be low tier, but
I mean, I don't know if they're exactly low tier, but they're definitely... Well, they were made for Weaver Dice.
You know... Oh, let's take a good look at what this... Alright. Let's see his power. Abilities and powers. Tinker, increased strength, flexibility, resistant to toxin. Yeah, this is definitely not low tier, but...
What about Tattletale?
Okay, Tattletale, Tattletale should be low tier, is the thing. It's just that
I did not take her!
Wildbow does not understand what intuition or cold reading is. Wildbow's power should have been low tier, but because Wildbow has no fucking idea how cold reading or deduction works, Tattletale's a high tier thinker power. Who's that mover who could hop to the moon? I'd consider him low tier if only because of the fact that he has to jump.
Strider.
No, it wasn't Strider. Strider can't hop to the moon. What are you talking about?
Did you describe Strider as high tier or low tier?
High tier. He's a mass teleporter.
True.
Like, if you can teleport more than 12 people, I consider your teleport pretty high tier. Especially if you could do it across the world.
What if you could pick a high tier power but isn't completely ridiculous, like Eidolon or Galactic Ewing?
No, if I could pick a high tier power that isn't ridiculous, I'm going Arms Master all the way. His specialization is pretty much one of the best Tinker specialization we've seen. That isn't wavelength manipulation.
I kind of want Panacea, mainly to create plagues.
Panacea's mid tier. How Panacea operates already shows that there's a clear limit to her power, and it's speed. You are not creating plagues in milliseconds. You have to have an already existing plague to do that, and that's why... that's why Panacea could counter. Okay, Bakuda is ridiculous, but at the same time, she has a clear limit. The only reason Bakuda was a threat was because of the her mechanical knowledge allowing her to create a dead man switch. Without that, she's an easy kill. She can't create power armor. She can't create a lot of other things. Glace is... It wasn't Glace that Ice Tinker we didn't see enough of in Toy Box?
Yeah. Panacea would be good for plastic surgery.
Yeah, I want to be
I'd
plastic,
fucking
but
love
it's not plastic surgery at that point. Why is
True.
Hero superior to Arms
Cosmetic
Master?
surgery.
Zero. Hero was a member of the previous Triumvirate, aka the Forumvirate, or whatever they called themselves. Hero had a power that could that could act like stilling. Hero...
Actors would probably pay you a lot to fucking, I don't know, reduce their age, make them look like someone else.
Well, yeah, but it's not
anything else.
plastic surgery. There's no plastic being
Cosmetic
used.
surgery.
Well, yeah, cosmetic.
Just because.
No, actually, no, it's not even cosmetic, it's biological surgery. You don't even change the cosmetic, you're changing their biology. You physically cannot call that...
changed as cosmetic.
Well, not really. It still has an impact over the actual system. It's just still not fully cosmetic because it has an impact.
True, but you could just use it for cosmetic things.
You can use anything for cosmetic purposes.
Like what? What power could you use for cosmetic powers?
What power? Alright, so let's use Skitter's power. She made clothing, armor, with the spiders. Alright, there we go. Panacea, biological plant armor. That's cool. Let's go... Who else?
Just all the armor?
I mean, yeah, armor is kind of what most people want. I mean, if Panacea wants to look like Enkidu, I don't care. Enkidu. Who else?
All surgery is biological.
Boob jobs and stuff.
I mean, yeah, but you could like completely rework someone's face.
Blasto can be used for cosmetics. Yeah, and he had a baby Endbringer. The only reason his baby Endbringer failed was because he wasn't allowed to complete it. I would have loved to see Samsara or whatever it was called in action. That would have been fucking amazing. Anyways, my destination...
Yeah, Samsara from Samaric.
No. It was... What was it called? Blasto had a baby Endbringer in his basement that Bonesaw discovered.
Yeah, why didn't, like, Bonesaw just take it?
Probably because Bonesaw literally said even she's not that crazy.